The following program is brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Tiffany Smith 3.0 show. We have a special guest with us today. Her name is Ariel Butler. I've known her since I was 12 years old. We met in middle school and we are in our mid-20s now, so we've been friends that entire time. We have stuck through everything together. She is one of my best friends. I'm going to let her get into her story. But today we are coming to you to talk about relationships and when it's time to let it go. Because a lot of times there are more destructive relationships than we know about. And we want people to know you have to know when to let it go. Or if you don't know, we're here to enlighten you on when it's time to let it go. So with all of that being said, I'm going to let her tell her story and we're going to get right into it.
Hello, like she said, I'm Ariel Butler, and I just wanted to thank her for the opportunity of being here today. We have gone way back, and I've got to see into her relationships, and she's got to see into mine, and we've given each other advice saying, you know, girl, you need to let it go, or girl, just watch out for this. But at the end of the day, we made it through. I would like to start off just saying that I regret no relationship that I've been in. I am still friends with the exes that I've been with because I feel like I've grown and I've learned from every relationship, and you learn what to do and what not to do. So this, show today is just red flags, how to know when it's done. So over to Tiff to ask questions.
Okay, well, a little bit about my relationship history. That's pretty much what it is. I was in a few relationships, some of them that I thought was great, some that wasn't so great, actually not great at all. And I knew that, but for whatever reason, I stayed. I was in a relationship that I can recall that I was getting mentally abused. And what is mental abuse? What is it? Who knows what mental abuse is? Well, mental abuse, according to loveisrespect.com, mental abuse is a form of abuse in which a partner uses verbal assault, fear, or humiliation to undermine the other person's self-esteem and self-worth. And that's exactly what was taking place in my relationship where I was getting mentally abused. I was getting put down all the time. I was getting controlled. It had gotten to the point where I didn't know what to think. I didn't know I lost myself in a relationship. And like Ariel touched on, I've learned from each of the relationships that I've been in. I've learned and I've grown. So I do not regret any of them because I think it's great to go through, frogs before you get to your charming, whether it's your princess or your prince charming. I think it's great to go through that because then you'll know. Because for me, it was so easy for me to know who wasn't the right person. So once I get to that person, then I'll know, okay, this doesn't feel familiar. This is not what I'm used to feeling. And that's when I should know that this is my Prince Charming, because I felt that I was just worthless, not efficient, not good enough for anyone. And no one should have to go through that. That is a sign that it's not for you. So I'm going to let Ariel explain her form of what she felt was abuse to her, because that's what I can tell you that I know that that's what happened in her relationships. So I'm going to let her explain to you guys what happened in her relationships. I'm going to let her tell us a little more about her.
Well, in some of my past relationships, a big factor was just insecurity, and the insecurity causing them to be controlling. I had to cater to their every move. I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, because they might get mad, or I might be accused of cheating or doing this or doing that. And I feel like that control, that I don't want to make a move to, uproar anything. That right there, I feel like that's a form of mental abuse, and I feel like we go through that so much, and it's just our instinct to cater to that, to just be okay with that. Like, I don't feel like arguing, so I do this, and that's what I did. I didn't feel like arguing, so I'm not gonna go here. I'm not gonna talk to this person. I'm not gonna like this status on Facebook. I'm not gonna take a picture with this guy, even though I know it's nothing. And I feel like nobody should be controlled. Nobody should be told what steps to take and what moves to make if we're all grown and we're all have a mind of our own. So that was just my form of control.
Okay, so Ariel, do you think that abuse is limited to just physical abuse? Do you think like mental abuse is still a form of abuse that is harmful? Like, is it only limited to physical? Like, you can only feel that this is not for you because I'm getting like beat down, I'm getting knocked out and stuff like that?
I would say physical abuse is definitely not the only form of abuse. I feel like that is the most blatant. I feel like that's the only one that you can't lie to yourself about. And some people still find a way to lie to themselves about physical abuse, but it's so much deeper. Physical abuse itself causes mental abuse. It's just so many other levels to abuse, and physical is definitely not the only one at all.
So do you feel that physical abuse is just as bad as mental abuse, or do you feel like, I'm only getting beat down. If I'm not getting beat down, then I'm okay. I can stick this out. But if I'm getting beat down, then that's the final straw.
I would say to that, I can't say one is worse than the other. I feel like, who am I to say that physical abuse is better than mental? It depends on the person, and it depends on what affects you the most. So if you're a person that, couldn't take physical, but you could take mental, and mentally that broke you down, some people are stronger willed and stronger mind, and physical would break them down more. So in my mind, it's not up to me to say which one's worse. They're all equivalent. It's all destructive. It all breaks your spirit. And at the end of the day, it all leads to something destructive.
Yeah, I have to agree. Physical abuse is obviously what it is. Everyone knows what it looks like. Everyone knows, what physical abuse is. And like you said, physical abuse does cause mental abuse. So I don't think I can say either which one is more destructive, because they're both bad. They're both terrible. No one should have to go through either of them. But yeah, I have to wholeheartedly agree with you on that. Mm-hmm. So how do you handle, personally, mental abuse? Because you've been through this, you said. So how do you handle it? How did you handle it?
I feel like going through it, I was not aware that I was in a mentally abusive relationship. I feel like no one is really aware until they can step out of it, look back, grow a little bit, and be like, hey, that wasn't healthy for me to be doing this and this and this. So as to how I got through it, or how, it's just kind of like a survival mode. Like, what to do to make it work at this point in time. What do I have to do to cater to this feeling or this person so that we can get through the day? And that's what I did. I catered to it, and I allowed it to keep going, because I just wanted to not argue. I just wanted to chill and have a good time or have fun. So I feel like you just do what you have to do, what that person wants you to do to get through your day.
Yeah, that was the same here. Like, when I was in a mentally abusive relationship, I didn't particularly know like I was getting mentally abused until I was out of it. And that's when I did all of my thinking back. You know how you think about your relationships after they're over and you're like, whatever. Yeah, I did all of my thinking back, and I'm like, okay, Yeah, that wasn't okay. That wasn't okay. There was times that I knew that stuff wasn't okay. I knew at that moment, like, this is not okay. I mean, the disrespect that was going on, that was taking place, I knew all of that. Like, those are obvious signs that I knew this is not okay. But I allowed it to go on. So at that moment, when I knew it wasn't okay and I allowed it to go on, I might have said something to the extent where you can't talk to me that way, or you can't do this to me, and it might have not had a great effect, but I still said something. That's the point I'm trying to get across. I said something. I let my voice be heard. Now, like I said, whether it didn't do anything at the moment or it didn't do anything at all ever, I let my voice be heard, and I let people know you can't disrespect me. It's not okay. So to know that you're getting mentally abused, if you know that you're getting mentally abused or physically abused, speak up. Let your voice be heard. Let people know you can't talk to me like this. You can't do this to me. I'm not this person. Like, you're not going to do this. I don't feel like anyone should lose themselves in any relationship. You should know who you are at all times with whatever relationship you're in, whether it's just a friendship or whether it's like a father-daughter relationship or whether it's a romantic relationship. You should never lose yourself and not know who you are in a relationship. And that is a form of mental abuse. So I would say definitely step up, like, let your voice be heard. Let your voice be, let people know that this is me and this is what I stand for and I don't believe that and stuff like that. So with that being said, what was the moment you realized that you were getting mentally abused? Was it after the relationship was over, like me, or was it immediately, like soon as something was said, you were like, okay, this is not okay? What was the moment you realized that this wasn't okay?
It was 100% after the fact that the relationship was over. I feel like you're just so caught up in that I love him and I just want to be with him kind of thing, and you don't even think about it. It's just something that goes on, and I feel like once you maybe go to relationship, Bible studies or something like that, then you start to realize, hey, this wasn't okay. But for me, it was 100% afterwards that I figured out, like, someone once told me they thought I was property and they treated me like I was property. Like, that was after the fact. And it's just like, wow, property? It's just, you don't realize how bad it is when you're going through it. Because, you still have the good times and the bad times, So it was 100% afterwards.
So were there any times that you felt like, yeah, like I felt that you knew this wasn't okay, but you kind of just like swept it under the rug? Was there any times like that you experienced?
I feel there were times where I knew that I wanted more. I was still focused on wanting more from that particular person and not just wanting more in life and as a whole. But I feel like when your feelings are hurt in that moment, you might realize, hey, I want better, I want more, but you don't really act on it because you're still hoping for that person to give you that.
Yeah, I know that feeling all too well. So when did you finally say, you know what, this isn't going to work for me? Like, I can't do this anymore. I have no more fight left in me. I can't do it. I'm walking, and this is like it. This is it. Because I've had those moments where I felt that, yeah, I'm gonna break up with you, and then we not talk for maybe a day or so, and then we're back together, after that. So it was like, yeah, I was so serious. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired, but then I'm right back. What was the moment where you realized this is just not gonna work at all, ever?
I feel like it's no one moment. I feel like when you get so exhausted from everything adding on everything else, it comes to a breaking point almost. It's just like a process. It's a process of breaking you down to the point where you want to walk away. For me, it was no one moment. Like, this is it. It wasn't. It was just like, I've had too much of the continuous things that you've done. Excuse me.
So like you said, when you had too much of it, like this is it, how did you handle that? Like, how did you feel about that? Did you know, like, yeah, this is it for real this time? Or because I know personally that she's had her moments like me where she's like, I'm done, not going to do it anymore. I'm for real this time. Nobody's talking me out of it. He's not going to be able to call me and sweet talk me. It's not going to happen. And then, the next week she'd be right back there. And I'm thinking, okay, she's going through what I did. It's a process. So how did you handle that when you finally, like, when you felt that you've kind of reached your straw? Like like you said, like, it's just not going to work. I've had too much. Enough is enough.
How did I handle it when I realized that enough was enough? I really honestly prayed on it. That's the only way I was going to get myself out of that situation. I loved that person more than I loved myself at that point. So how do you walk away? How do you let that go when you love somebody more than you love yourself, where you care about somebody else's well-being more than you care about yourself? All I could do was pray myself out. And when I talked to God, I said, God, give me strength to get out of this because I can't do it on my own. It was just, you pray and you get to that one moment where you're like, okay, you have that sense of peace, like I can get through it. And everybody around me was like, it's so sudden. How could you do it? Like, it was just, yesterday you was with him, today you're just over it. They just admired my strength. And I'm just like, no, I prayed on that for a long time and got God's strength. And when he told me I can do it and I can move on, then I did it and I moved on. But it took a lot of prayer.
Yeah, that is the truth right there. Excuse me. I remember, countless nights, days, I'm in class and I'm just like, I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm praying for me to, just give me the strength to walk. Because at that time I had brick feet. Brick feet are when you can't move. Like, you want to, but you can't move. So I had brick feet. And I prayed. Prayer definitely works. So when you realized that you have gotten the strength from God, what did you initially think? What did you do? Like, how did you handle that in your mind? And how did you handle it to him? Like, what was the response?
I would say to this moment in my life, that was the hardest thing I had to do, because that's the person you've been with for years now. When they hurt, you hurt. So even though I was tired, even though I was fed up, I was still hurt because I know they were going to be hurt. So, in conversations where they were just telling me, they messed up and stuff like this, I would be strong on the phone. But when we got off, I'm crying because you're hurt. Like, it was, I don't know. It was one of the most trying times in my life, personally.
Yeah, that's true. So what type of advice would you give to someone, whether it be guy or girl? Because believe it or not, guys get mentally abused, guys get physically abused. As crazy as it sounds, it still happens. So what type of advice would you give someone who is going through or may believe that they're going through a mentally abusive or physically abusive relationship? What type of advice would you give to them? Like, what would you say as of right now?
I feel like people have to be very verbal, about how they feel or how something makes them feel. Sometimes somebody might be put in the abusive category just because they didn't know that how they approach a situation or how they talk to somebody hurts their feelings. So I feel like give them the opportunity to correct their mistakes or correct how they talk to you or how they deal with you first. And then if after you stated, this hurts me, this breaks me down, this kills my spirit when you talk to me like that, if they still don't change that, then I feel like you have to love yourself enough to just get up and leave. And it's so cliche, but that's really all it is. You cannot love another person more than you love yourself and be healthy. You can't.
So when you say love yourself more than you love that person, what exactly, like, how do you know that you love someone else more than you love yourself? Like, how did you know that you were in love with, or you loved someone way more than you loved yourself? Like, how did you realize that?
looking back, I realized that because it didn't matter how I felt. Even if I was at the bottom, if they were good and how we were in our relationship was good, then I was good. I didn't need to be fulfilled. Only if they were fulfilled, then I was okay. And I feel like that's how you know you love somebody better than you love, more than you love yourself.
Yeah, so guys, as far as advice from me, listen to yourself. A lot of times we second guess ourselves because for whatever reason we stay, like I stayed in my relationship because I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to invest all this time and get nothing out of it. All of these reasons that mean nothing when you're going through something like that, these reasons mean nothing, absolutely nothing. You can always start over. You always can just say, I need a new start. You can always, whatever situation you're in, you do not have to stay. You do not have to keep it that way. You can always fix it. So guys, with that being said, we are going to play the red flag and yellow flag game. In this game, I'm going to ask a question and Ariel will hold up a stop sign or a yield sign. Everyone knows that yield means proceed with caution and stop means just completely stop it. Do not proceed to go. So I'm going to ask her a question, and she's going to tell if this is a red flag in a relationship or if this is a yield sign. Either way, you have to think about both. So that being said, they spill all of your secrets. Is that a red flag or is that a yield?
That's a stop for me. I feel like if you can't trust your significant other, then what do you have? Like, I should be able to tell you anything and everything, and it's just between me and you as my friend.
That's true. So they expect you to do all of the work. This girl's not doing anything. This girl's not having that, okay?
No, absolutely not.
So they lie. They lie and you catch them, right?
I feel like
that's not a stop for you?
Lying is a very slippery slope. Me personally, I feel like you should never lie in a relationship, but I don't feel like that's the end all be all. Like, once you get caught, I'm going to let you know for the first time, don't do me like that. I'm smarter than that. Let's just be honest. And then if they keep doing it, then that'll be a red sign, stop. But yield the first time.
She gives second chances. She's forgiving. She's a forgiving girl. They disrespect you. How do you feel about that one? Stop.
Yeah.
Ain't no disrespect happening. Nobody is going to disrespect my friend here. She's not taking it.
No.
Like, that's a stop for her. She's just not having it.
Joe Butler's just not going for that.
Your friends and family hate them.
I feel like my reason for that is you only know what goes on in your relationship. You don't know why they don't want you to be together. They could want him. Or I feel like it's also a yield because they could see something in him that you can't see because you're so you're so in love. So I feel like think about why they don't like him. And if it's justifiable, really proceed with caution and really try to see it for what it is.
What about that good old gut feeling? So you have this feeling that something just is not right. What about that one?
I feel like that's 100% stop because your gut knows. I feel like sometimes your gut feeling is that spirit inside of you, the Holy Spirit inside of you just saying, hey, stop. This is not for you. So I'm a firm believer in going with your gut.
What about they talk about sex on the first date?
I don't know. I feel like that's a stop because for me personally, that's just a turn off. It's just like, no, I have this big mind. I graduated from Florida State University. Talk to me first, and then we can maybe talk about that later.
Oh, okay. So, you know what not to bring up on the first date. What about if you catch them in a lie about how many sexual partners they've had?
I think they all lie. And I feel like it just is what it is. Your past is your past. You don't have to lie to me about it, but it happens.
Right. What if you hate his friends?
even though I'm a big advocate of not having not so smart friends because I feel like they influence you, I'm not dating your friends. I'm dating you. So if you're strong enough to have your own mind, which is somebody who I'm dating has to have their own mind, then who cares if I hate your friends? I'm not dating them, unfortunately.
You know, I've never had that. I've never had that. Thank God I've never experienced friends that I just couldn't stand. What about doesn't take the blame for anything?
That's very annoying, and that could end in destruction because I feel like everybody needs to take their part in what went wrong or what's going wrong, and you can't fix it unless you take your part in it. So it's a yield at first, but it can lead to destruction.
So what about mama's boy, daddy's girl?
Usually, I'm a daddy's girl, so I don't have anything negative to say about daddy's girl, but mama boys, I just need them to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. That's all I can say. I think that's a yield. What
about not working or going to school?
If this could get any bigger, I have to yell this. No, you have to have a future. I'm not saying that you have to pay for me. I'm just saying you have to have a future for yourself so we can build together and grow.
Absolutely. Well, guys, it has been great. Our time for this show is over. Please tune in next week. I'm going to end this show by saying the most common way people give up their power is by thinking that they don't have any. And that quote is by Alice Walker. So thank you guys. Tune in next week. It's been a pleasure. Bye.
Bye.
This program was brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization, setting the standard for new media broadcasting.